All right, good evening. In the never-ending quest to figure out what I want to do for storage whenever I go on trips, I went out and picked up this Craftsman 5 shelf storage unit and a bunch of associated bins from Lowe's. I was wandering around Lowe's looking for some paint to paint some wheels, and found this thing. I think it's been, I know the crate's been out for a while. This is the first time I've seen the rack. It's 5 shelves. I forget the dimensions off the top of my head, but it's basically set up to where it'll hold various sizes of totes. So these ones down here are 10-gallon totes, and these 6 or 5-gallon totes. Whenever you buy the rack, the totes are usually real close next by. They had one of these already set up, so I got a bunch of the totes and put them in there and figured out how many I wanted and where. These 5-gallon totes I've got the most of, and I settled for storing most of the gear. Most of my stuff is smaller and will fit in this stuff. Whenever I get it in the Jeep, these 6 totes stack on one side of the cargo area, and these 2 totes stack on the other side. If you look at the tops, they got that cutout in them. That cutout also mirrored on the bottom, so these units will stack together. I've not taken on a trip yet. I just got it put together, and I just got stuff stored in it. As I've got it set up, or as I had it set up before, I had gear scattered everywhere. I don't know if you can see this cabinet over here to the left of the rack. This was in here when we bought the place, and I just kind of kept it and used it for storage. I had camping gear in there. I had camping gear over my head in the rafters. I had it against that wall and that wall. It was scattered all over the place, and it would take me forever to get everything packed up and ready to go. So what I was shooting for is a setup that would allow me to basically grab these boxes, throw them in the Jeep, and go. I would love to have a dedicated in-Jeep storage, a drawer system, or a cabinet, or something along those lines. But it's my daily driver. I got to drive it back and forth to work. I got to haul kids in it. Having a dedicated drawer or cabinet system big enough to hold everything is not feasible while also doing all that other stuff. So I decided to try to go to some sort of grab-and-go solution, which is why I got this. So I divvied up my gear into all these boxes. These bottom 2 are basically empty. I've got extra food that I can use later, stored in this one right here. And my summertime bedding is in this box right here. All the other ones are stacked accordingly. I'll grab the list real quick and I'll read it off. Give me just a second. Alright, so I won't read off every single item that's in the boxes. I have a feeling I'm going to tweak this and move stuff around and change the way I load the boxes in the Jeep. The way I have it set up right now, I tried to put the heavy crates on the bottom, lighter ones on top, and have it set up to where I can put all this in the cargo area and still have the back seat up so I can take either one or both of my kids whenever I go on trips. Without the kids, I can fold the seat down, spread everything out, and have some more space. But the way I've got it set up right now, I can basically take everything I need, have the kids in there with me, even the wife if I need to, and make it work. So this first box is electrical doodads and air. So like the multimeter, crimp connectors, extra wires, or extra like 14-gauge wire, air pump, wire crimper, stuff like that. I also keep my batteries for my 20-volt tools in here. In this second container, both these are pretty heavy, is 5 days worth of food for one person. So obviously if I add people, you start knocking into that 5 days pretty quick. But my daughter doesn't eat a whole lot, and it would not be a big deal to extend this. No matter where I go, I'm not that far from just running into town and grabbing food if I need it. Third box is my mess kit, so we're going to have our cooking gear in here other than our stove. We'll have some fuel in there, some propane fuel, I got my jet boil and mess kit and whatnot. Number 4, this guy down here is going to be my buddy heater. So during the summertime, this box would not go with me. It would just stay here. During the wintertime, if I've got my daughter with me, having the buddy heater in the Jeep is a savior. I do keep the window down, and I have a basic budget ventilation system to keep the air cycled out of there. But this will get the Jeep uncomfortably warm in about 10 to 15 minutes. Number 5 is basic camp setup and some tarps. I can run these off the Jeep and build basically a little awning system, cordage, tarps to cover these boxes when I don't have them in the Jeep. Number 6 is fluids and spare parts. I carry a quart of engine oil, transmission fluid, a little bit of brake fluids, and power steering fluid. And then I've got my little box of spare parts, and that's a very basic spare parts kit. It's basically any sensor that will keep the Jeep from running is in this box. And some sensors that won't keep the Jeep from running, but it'll make it run bad. Once again, I keep a spare in here. U-joints, I keep a 760 and a 1310 U-joint in here. If something were to happen, I can swap them out on the trail. I can make it work. Number 7 down here is my bedding. This one will change throughout, between winter and summertime. During the summertime, where I live and where I go, I don't need like a negative 10-degree sleeping bag or anything. You get away with a 40 or 50-degree sleeping bag pretty easily. That'll also have my hammock, my vent fans that I set up in the Jeep, stuff like that. This is the one I wish I could either get rid of or reduce, but it's probably the heaviest crate here. This is my tools. It's hand tools, power tools that run off the 20-volt batteries I got in there. And then loose equipment that don't go in the boxes, I've got that listed too, just so I can keep track of what's what. This is not an end-all, be-all system. It works for me. Some stuff like my seats, the camp chairs won't fit in the boxes. My dual burner propane stove won't fit in the boxes. My chainsaw, my battery chainsaw won't fit in the boxes. And then I've got some basic recovery gear that I keep out and readily available, just a strap and some shackles and whatnot. I'll see how this system works. I've been through a lot of different setups. I've spent way too much money in my lifetime on storage boxes, trying to get stuff to work in there for me. Obviously, some kind of more permanently installed setup would be ideal, but for what I use the Jeep for on a daily basis, that's not an option. I can't fit a permanent storage system in there and keep everything, or use the Jeep the way I need to use it. I can't afford to have a second vehicle that I use for daily use, so this has got to do double duty as my camping / trail vehicle and also my daily driver. There's another system that Lowe's sells called the Commander, Commander. I have a couple of the Commander storage boxes. They're okay, but the Craftsman boxes are very similarly priced. They're within a couple of dollars of the Commander boxes, and they feel like they're built much better. They stack together much better, and their rack system, the Commander has a rack system as well. Their Commander system, or whatever they call it, has a rack as well, and that rack did not feel as well built as this one. Craftsman claims each shelf can hold 250 pounds. I don't know how true that is. I would not put 250 pounds on each of these shelving units. I can push down on it myself and bend it, but if you pull these shelving units off and look at them, they're boxed. It's boxed plastic. The whole setup's plastic, but it's boxed in plastic all the way around. It's not. There's some other plastic shelving units. I think Plano makes them. They work okay, but they are pretty flimsy. these are not that flimsy. But I don't know if the claim that these will hold 250 pounds is true. At least not for the long term. I'm sure you could put 250 pounds on this for the short term, and it would be all right. But I think you'd wind up getting a bow to the shelving units. Again, this is my heaviest box. I got all my tools in it, and that would probably. I will keep an eye on this shelf and see what happens with it. Not everything will be grab and go. I can't afford to keep some of this stuff specifically for camp and trail use and just keep it stored in these boxes. And there's things I carry in my Jeep daily that I've got over here right now, and that would be like my tools, for my tools, my electrical stuff. Some of the stuff that's in this electrical box up here would be riding around in my Jeep daily. For that use, I've got a Plano container that I've had for a long time. I keep that in the back of the Jeep, and I keep all my basic daily stuff that I want to keep in the Jeep in there. Toolbox, multimeter, some gloves, some electrical connectors and a crimper, basic things like that. And that will slow me down as far as grabbing these containers and going on camping trips. I'll have to reload my tools and some other things that I keep out in the shop. This thing has a lot of the tools that I use in this shop whenever I work on stuff all the time. So the toolbox has to be basically completely unloaded. So I have to reload that. But all the other stuff, it will be ready to go. This container down here that I have, this one that I have the extra food storage in, I can refill my 5-day food supply off of that while I'm here after I come back from a trip. Once again, grab and go. So this, I can't remember if I said in the beginning, this whole setup was about $150. Or no, 140. Sorry, I bought some extra stuff while I was there. It was about 140. That's for the rack, these 6 boxes, and these 6 5-gallon boxes, and these 4 10-gallon boxes. I didn't put anything on the top shelf because I wanted to put loose equipment up here. Stuff that wouldn't fit in boxes that I can just store in the Jeep, either between the boxes or somewhere else. But you could definitely add some more boxes up on the top if you wanted to. Craftsman makes a 20-gallon version of these boxes, I think. Yeah, I remember seeing a 20-gallon box there while I was testing this out in the store. But it would fill this entire shelf up, and that's not a good fit for the way I use my Jeep over here. So these sizes work for me for now. And like I said, I'll tweak and mess around with it as I use it and go from there. But so far, after getting it all set up and taking it in and out of the Jeep a couple of times, I'm liking this quite a bit, and I think I'm going to try to keep it around. I may actually get another one of these or another 2 of these and expand this shelving to the right and left and use it for spare parts. That old shelving unit over there right now, I've got a lot of spare parts for my XJ that I keep around. Like I said, it's my daily driver. Sometimes when you go to the parts store, they're like, oh, we got to order it. It's going to be a day or 2. I may not have that option. So I try to keep the stuff that will keep me from being able to operate the Jeep on the shelf. So hopefully I might be able to expand another one of these and condense and reorganize my parts storage. So anyway, if you got any questions about this, ask me below. After I use it for a while, I'll post an update video and tell y'all what I think about it. Y'all have a good one.